On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Marian Robinson, the beloved mother of former First Lady Michelle Obama, passed away on May 31, 2024, at the age of 86. Her death, from natural causes, marked the quiet end of a life that had, in recent years, stood in the gentle shadow of one of America's most historic presidencies. Yet Marian's story was not one of mere proximity to power. It was a reflection of steadfast values, humility, family, and resilience that resonated deeply with a public longing for authenticity in a world often dominated by spectacle. Born in Chicago in 1937, Marian Lois Shields Robinson came of age during a time of profound racial and social transformation in the United States. She married Fraser Robinson, a pump operator and Democratic precinct captain, and together they raised two children, Craig and Michelle, emphasizing education, integrity, and service. As Michelle rose to prominence alongside Barack Obama, Marian remained a grounding force. When the Obamas entered the White House in 2009, Marian made history herself by becoming the first grandmother to reside there since the Eisenhower era, not for fame or recognition, but to help raise her granddaughters, Malia and Sasha. Her passing did not send political shockwaves or alter the course of nations, but it stirred a more intimate, emotional reckoning. For many Americans, Marian represented the unheralded yet vital matriarchs whose sacrifices underpin the successes of future generations. The quiet strength she displayed, stepping into the White House with grace, declining interviews, and always prioritizing her family, offered a powerful counter-narrative to celebrity culture and political grandstanding. In death, Marian Robinson's legacy was warmly remembered, not just through public tributes, but through the deeply personal reflections of her daughter. Michelle Obama's moving eulogies underscored a life devoted to nurturing, moral guidance, and quiet endurance. Marian became a symbol of the enduring power of maternal love and generational wisdom, values that transcend political divides. Marian's story reminds us that not all legacies are forged on battlefields or in legislative halls. Some are cultivated in kitchens, schools, and quiet acts of devotion. Her life and death reflect how we, as a society, yearn to preserve those intangible qualities that bind families and communities. Through memoirs, photographs, and the enduring words of those she loved, Marian Robinson is immortalized not as a figure of power, but as a powerful figure nonetheless, rooted in the quiet dignity of a life well lived. Martha Hyer, the refined and graceful Hollywood actress of the 1950s and 60s, passed away of natural causes on May 31, 2014 in Santa Fe, New Mexico, at the age of 89. Her death marked the end of a quietly dignified life lived largely out of the spotlight in her later years, after having once been one of the industry's most luminous stars. Her passing did not dominate headlines or ignite a cultural reckoning, but it did signal the fading of a golden age of cinema, a period shaped by elegance, studio glamour, and a tightly curated public image. Born in Fort Worth, Texas in 1924, Hyer ascended in Hollywood during a time when women were often cast in roles that demanded charm and poise rather than complexity. Despite this, she distinguished herself through performances that carried a quiet depth, most memorably in Some Came Running, 1958. Which earned her an Academy Award nomination. Her career reflected the mid-20th century tension between artistry and image, a time when actresses struggled to maintain autonomy while navigating the controlling studio system. The circumstances of her death, peaceful and unpublicized, stark contrast with the dramatic narrative arcs she often portrayed on screen. Her retreat from public life, especially after marrying legendary producer Hal B. Wallace, mirrored a broader generational shift away from the performative nature of fame. Rather than capitalizing on her celebrity in later years, Hyer chose privacy, reflecting a value of discretion and self-respect that defined many women of her era. While her death did not alter history's trajectory, it did remind classic film lovers of a cinematic era increasingly romanticized and revisited through restoration projects, retrospectives, and film festivals. Her legacy endures in black and white stills, in the flicker of Technicolor reels, and in the measured elegance of her performances. In a world rapidly accelerating toward instant fame and fleeting trends, Martha Hyer's life is a testament to the enduring power of subtlety and grace. Through the preservation of her films and the quiet reverence with which classic Hollywood is remembered, Hyer has been immortalized, not as a revolutionary figure, but as a symbol of an artistic tradition rooted in style, restraint, and timeless allure. Her life and death highlight how our cultural memory often cherishes not only those who command the spotlight, but also those who embody its softer glow. Jack Dempsey, the fierce and charismatic heavyweight boxing champion of the 1920s, died of natural causes on May 31, 1983, at the age of 87 in New York City. His death marked the passing of not just a legendary athlete, but a symbol of a roaring, turbulent American era, a time defined by post-war bravado, economic boom, and the rise of mass media. Dempsey's career and ultimate departure bookend one of the most transformative periods in American cultural history. Known as the Manasseh Mauler, Dempsey dominated boxing from 1919 to 1926, his ferocious fighting style electrifying audiences and helping to usher in a golden age of sports. His 1921 bout against Georges Carpentier was the first boxing match to generate over $1 million in gate receipts, and his 1927 rematch with Gene Tunney drew national attention for the controversial long count. Dempsey became one of the first sports superstars of the radio age, his fights broadcast across the country to working-class fans who saw in him a reflection of ambition and raw power. By the time of his death in the early 1980s, boxing had changed, and America had entered an era of new concerns: Cold War tensions, technological advancement, and shifting cultural identities. Yet the announcement of Dempsey's passing reignited admiration for a bygone era of grit and spectacle. His death reminded the public of a time when athletes were mythologized as much for their struggle as for their skill, and when boxing, unregulated and brutal, represented both opportunity and danger. Dempsey's legend was only amplified by his passing. He had long outlived his fame but remained a revered figure, frequently appearing at fights, charity events, and even running a restaurant in New York. His image, lean, determined, unstoppable, remained etched into the collective memory of American sports. Jack Dempsey's death offers insight into how we memorialize figures of strength and survival. In honoring him through biographies, Hall of Fame inductions, and cultural references, we enshrine not just the man, but an idea, the belief that through courage and will, greatness is attainable. His life and legacy continue to punch through history's canvas, reminding us that mortality may end the body, but it cannot silence the myth. Arlene Galanka, a beloved character actress known for her cheerful energy and quintessentially American charm, passed away from natural causes on May 31, 2021, at the age of 85. Best remembered for her role as Millie Swanson on The Andy Griffith Show and its spin-off, Mayberry RFD, Galanka's death marked the quiet fading of a performer who embodied a particular slice of mid-20th century optimism in American television. Her passing, though not seismic in global historical terms, offered a moment of cultural reflection, a nod to the comfort and simplicity audiences once found in television's golden age. Born in Chicago in 1936, Galanka honed her craft at the famed Goodman Theater and later at the Actors Studio, joining a generation of post-war actors dedicated to blending craft with charm. Her performances often radiated warmth and reliability, qualities highly valued in a country undergoing social upheaval during the 1960s and 70s. While the world outside was rapidly transforming due to civil rights movements, the Vietnam War, and the sexual revolution, Galanka and her television counterparts offered audiences a nostalgic escape to small-town America, where problems were simple and always resolved within 30 minutes. Her death during a time of global uncertainty, the COVID-19 pandemic, reflected a poignant juxtaposition: the loss of an actress from a more innocent entertainment era at a time when society longed again for reassurance and familiarity. The immediate aftermath of her passing saw tributes from fans and former colleagues, acknowledging her contributions not just as an actress, but as a comforting presence in the homes of millions. While Galanka was never a headline-grabbing celebrity, her legacy underscores the importance of supporting players in shaping a cultural ethos. She helped define the archetype of the girl next door during a time when that role symbolized stability, kindness, and traditional values. In commemorations and retrospectives, she is remembered as a gentle reminder of America's more idealistic self-image. Arlene Galanka's passing invites reflection on how we preserve memory, not just of the titans of history, but of those who populated our daily lives with laughter and light. Through syndication, nostalgia TV channels, and the affection of devoted fans, her memory endures. In that sense, she is immortalized not through monuments, but through the warm familiarity of a rerun and the smile it brings. Terry Sawchuk, one of the greatest goaltenders in the history of professional ice hockey, died tragically and prematurely on May 31, 1970, at the age of 40. His death was the result of complications following a physical altercation with his New York Rangers teammate Ron Stewart. Though ruled accidental, the injuries Sawchuk sustained, a ruptured gallbladder and internal bleeding, led to multiple surgeries and ultimately his demise due to a pulmonary embolism. The circumstances of his death highlighted the intense physical and emotional toll of professional sports during a time when mental health and player well-being were rarely addressed. Sawchuk played in the NHL for 21 seasons, enduring repeated injuries without the benefit of modern protective gear or medical care. He was known for his stoicism and resilience, qualities idolized in mid-20th century North America, especially during the post-World War II and Cold War eras. In many ways, his career mirrored the era's glorification of masculine endurance and sacrifice, where vulnerability was hidden behind pads, stitches, and silence. His untimely death forced the sports world to take a closer look at the emotional burden carried by athletes, especially those living in the public eye with little personal support. The immediate impact of Sawchuk's death was profound within the hockey community. Tributes poured in, and his number was retired in several arenas. The tragedy also sparked new conversations around player safety and mental health, topics that, while still evolving today, were almost taboo in 1970. He was posthumously inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame later that year, solidifying his legacy as not only a sports legend, but also a cautionary tale of what could befall even the toughest competitors. Sawchuk's story lives on through documentaries, biographies, and commemorative statues, such as the haunting bronze sculpture in Winnipeg that depicts him in full goalie gear, his face scarred, a powerful testament to the physical punishment he endured. His legacy is preserved not only in statistics, but in the very evolution of the goaltender's role, equipment improvements, and broader discussions about athlete welfare. In remembering Sawchuk, we confront the high cost of greatness and the fragile line between strength and suffering. His death invites us to re-examine how society views endurance and to question what is lost when we valorize silence over vulnerability. Through remembrance, we grant such figures the dignity that often eluded them in life. Johnny Taylor, the legendary philosopher of soul, passed away on May 31, 2000, from a heart attack at the age of 66. His death was natural but sudden, bringing to a close a dynamic career that spanned gospel, soul, R&B, and disco. Known for hits like Who's Making Love and Disco Lady, the first single to be certified platinum, Taylor's music chronicled the desires, struggles, and transitions of African American life through the civil rights era and into the modern age. His passing marked not only the loss of a gifted voice, but the fading of an entire chapter in soul music's evolution. Taylor's death came at a time when digital music and hip-hop were surging, and his absence served as a poignant reminder of the analog, emotionally raw sound that once dominated the airwaves. He had lived through, and reflected in his work, the racial and cultural upheaval of the 1960s and 1970s, and his music offered both catharsis and commentary. Songs like Cheaper to Keep Her and Jody's Got Your Girl and Gone mixed humor with heartbreak, giving voice to real-life struggles in relationships and society. His passing, therefore, was felt as the end of an era for a generation that had danced, cried, and loved to his records. The immediate consequences of his death were mostly emotional and symbolic. Fans and artists alike mourned the loss, and tributes highlighted his versatility, charisma, and deep connection to his audience. Although his death didn't dramatically shift history, it amplified his legend, prompting renewed interest in his discography and the enduring soul tradition he helped shape. In many ways, Taylor's death underscores how music immortalizes its creators, making them ever present in the lives of future generations. Johnny Taylor is remembered through reissues of his albums, tribute performances, and ongoing airplay on classic soul stations. His voice continues to echo in the work of modern artists who sample his rhythms or draw inspiration from his unapologetically honest storytelling. Ultimately, Taylor's death reminds us of mortality's certainty, even for icons, yet also of art's ability to defy time. Through the grooves of vinyl, digital playlists, and the memories of those who knew his music, Johnny Taylor lives on, a soulful spirit enshrined not just in sound, but in the cultural memory of a people who found joy, reflection, and resilience in his songs. Roki Ericson, a pioneer of psychedelic rock and a founding member of the 13th Floor Elevators, died of natural causes on May 31, 2019, at the age of 71. His passing marked the end of one of the most enigmatic and tumultuous journeys in American music. Known for his haunting voice and kaleidoscopic lyrics, Ericson's life was a reflection of both the boundless creativity and the dark undercurrents of the 1960s counterculture. His death, though quiet, symbolized the fading of an era shaped by rebellion, experimentation, and an often tragic collision with institutional authority. Ericson rose to fame in the mid-60s with the Elevators' breakthrough hit, You're Gonna Miss Me, a raw, howling track that helped define psychedelic rock. However, his career was derailed in 1969 when he was arrested for marijuana possession, a minor charge by today's standards, but a serious offense at the time. Rather than serve prison time, he pleaded insanity and spent years in Rusk State Hospital for the criminally insane, where he endured electroconvulsive therapy and powerful antipsychotic drugs. His death underscores the challenges faced by artists who lived on the margins of society, whose mental health issues were often misunderstood or criminalized. The 1960s celebrated mind expansion and artistic freedom, Yet figures like Ericson paid a heavy price for crossing societal boundaries. In many ways, his death brought closure to a life filled with both creative brilliance and institutional neglect. The immediate aftermath of Ericson's death saw an outpouring of tributes from fellow musicians, fans, and music historians. He was remembered not just as a cult figure, but as a visionary who helped shape the sound of generations to come. Artists from REM to Billy Gibbons cited his influence, and renewed interest in his music followed his passing, ensuring his legacy would live on. Roki Ericson's life and death illustrate humanity's struggle to reconcile genius with vulnerability, freedom with control. In commemorating him, through documentaries, tribute albums, and scholarly re-evaluations, we not only honor his contributions, but also confront the cultural systems that shaped his fate. He remains a symbol of raw artistic truth, a reminder that legends are often forged not just by triumph, but through perseverance amid adversity. Through music and memory, Roki's echo continues to haunt and inspire. Dorothy Patrick, a Canadian-American actress best remembered for her work in 1940s and 1950s Hollywood, died of a heart attack on May 31, 1987, at the age of 65. Her death, though relatively quiet compared to many of her contemporaries, marked the close of a chapter in the golden age of Hollywood, a time when the studio system defined fame and female stars were carefully molded by image makers behind the scenes. Patrick's passing was natural, yet it symbolized the twilight of an era when actresses often lived dual lives, glamorized on-screen personas, and more restrained, sometimes difficult realities behind the camera. Known for roles in films like Till the Clouds Roll By and The Big Clock, Patrick embodied the classic Hollywood starlet, elegant, poised, and photogenic. But like many women of her time, her career trajectory was shaped and limited by the industry's narrow expectations of femininity and beauty. In the decades before her death, Patrick had faded from the public spotlight, working outside the film industry and focusing on family life. Her quiet exit from Hollywood stardom is reflective of a broader cultural pattern in mid-20th century America. Actresses whose careers peaked early often disappeared from view as new faces emerged and the industry evolved. Patrick's death did not spark widespread public mourning or rekindle major retrospectives, yet her life story remains an important footnote in understanding how fame, particularly for women, was constructed and discarded during that time. The legacy of figures like Dorothy Patrick is preserved not through grand national tributes, but through the enduring allure of classic cinema and the historical curiosity of film enthusiasts. She is immortalized in black and white reels, vintage film posters, and scattered fan archives that honor the unsung contributors to Hollywood's rich tapestry. Her death encourages reflection on how society remembers its cultural figures, often reserving enduring legacy for those whose stories are dramatic or tragic. Yet in Patrick's quiet life and passing, there lies a deeper truth about mortality and memory, that even the lesser-known stars played a role in shaping the collective dreams of an era. Through film restoration projects, biographical essays, and fan communities, we ensure that even those who slipped out of the spotlight continue to glimmer in the history of cinema. Joseph Haydn, one of the pivotal figures of the classical period, died peacefully of natural causes on May 31, 1809, at the age of 77. His passing occurred in Vienna amid the turmoil of the Napoleonic Wars, a moment when the city was under French occupation. Though the end of his life was marked by frailty and ill health, Haydn remained mentally alert and spiritually composed. He reportedly continued to play his beloved compositions on the piano until days before his death, a testament to his enduring devotion to music. The timing of Haydn's death was significant. Vienna, once a thriving cultural capital, was trembling under the boots of Napoleon's army. As cannons roared in the distance, the death of Austria's most celebrated composer served as a symbolic moment, the passing of not just a man, but an era of artistic order and Enlightenment ideals. Haydn had composed for the courts of princes and helped define a musical form rooted in balance, clarity, and structure, values that stood in contrast to the chaos of the times. His dignified death offered a stark juxtaposition to the violence surrounding him, reinforcing the idea of art as a refuge from political upheaval. The immediate consequences of Haydn's death were both public and profound. Memorial services were held in Vienna and later in London, where he had enjoyed great success. Tributes poured in from across Europe, acknowledging him not just as a brilliant composer, but as the father of the symphony and father of the string quartet. His passing was felt as a cultural loss, particularly in an age when music was beginning to shift toward the Romantic era's more personal and emotionally charged expressions. In death, Haydn's legacy was amplified. Beethoven, who had studied briefly under him, carried forward his structural genius, while Mozart, whom Haydn had deeply admired and encouraged, ensured the continuation of his musical lineage. Over time, Haydn's image has been preserved in statues, biographies, and countless performances of his work, testaments to the timeless quality of his compositions. Haydn's death reflects the enduring human desire to create harmony in a world of disorder. We immortalize such figures not simply because of their genius, but because they represent the heights of what humanity can achieve, even in times of war. Through music, memory, and celebration, Joseph Haydn's voice continues to resonate centuries after his final note.